Mongil Star Dive, a brand new game falling into the wholesome monster collector genre. And like any wholesome monster collecting game, you embark on a hero's journey to save the world, befriend countless adorable companions, and... okay, I went into this game completely blind and only heard that this game was a monster collector, so this type of extra wholesome content took me by surprise. Now despite the game's high quality, highly cultured tastes, how is the actual game itself? Well, I was given early access and I've spent a decent amount of time playing through it to be able to give you my first impressions of the game. Mongil Star Dive is a free-to-play gacha game coming out on April 15th on the Epic Game Store, Android, and iOS. I'll Mongil Star Dive into the story, the exploration, the combat, the monster catching system, the characters you can collect, the gacha, the progression system, and much more to help you determine whether or not Mongil Star Dive is a game that you should or shouldn't try. While this video is sponsored, as always, I do my best to provide a fair and comprehensive review. If you do like what you see, there will be a link to check out the game down below. And if you don't like what you see, which, how can you not after seeing these groovy moves, don't worry, you're still a fun guy to be around. Mongil Star Dive begins its story with a light-hearted introduction to the two main monster tamers whose misadventures you'll be following. The somewhat serious and capable Verna, and the extremely high IQ Cloud, who adorably is able to bond and communicate with monsters. Usually I'm not a fan of annoying childish male leads, but Cloud is an exception and I do appreciate him. You discover a godlike Nyanners who is capable of ingesting monsters for your personal use once it poops out said monster as a monster-shaped dumpling called Monsterlings. This game does not take itself too seriously, and the tone of the story is certainly whimsical. Now, I'll keep the spoilers to a minimum, but the story does set some reasonable stakes and was interesting enough for me to not want to skip it, which is better than most gacha game stories. Now, I didn't notice a skip button for the main story, so there is also that to take into consideration. Now let's talk about the monster catching and exploration. Besides the comical premise of digging through your cat's litter box for monsters, monsterlings are gathered by defeating monsters in the overworld with a percentage chance. Now, one of the things I noticed was the inability to jump. Yes, a bit of a shame, but it's not really a deal breaker in my opinion. You go around instanced, moderately sized areas, beating up on the local fauna to harvest their souls to poop them out as monsterlings, while also collecting various plants and ores for crafting materials. There are occasional chests and puzzles as well, so pretty standard exploration stuff. At the moment, especially for how far I am into the game, it does appear advantageous to go through these routes once a day to collect a ton of monsterlings and materials, as you'll need lots of these to power up your account. One aspect I really did appreciate is that, at least as far as I am into the story, which is just the end of chapter 2, there wasn't any major downtime where you have to level up your account or wait multiple days or explore a bunch in order to progress through the story. You do have a few occasional side quests that you need to do to progress, but so far no waiting for days, although that could change the further you get. The towns and areas also sport modest graphical fidelity, and I was surprised to learn that this game was developed in Unreal Engine 5, but it's good enough for what it's trying to accomplish, which is a light-hearted and lively anime-styled environment with cute monsters strewn throughout and integrated into the daily life of the citizens of this world. Exploration is simple and enjoyable enough, and hopefully, given its instanced nature, should hopefully perform well on mobile. I didn't get the chance to test this game on mobile, so I can't comment on that. Now, a bit more on the monsters. You can merge them for some potential mutations, and your endgame goal is to get high rarity monsters with good substats. There's going to be a ton of RNG with this system, and I cannot prematurely judge this until the endgame. We'll have to see after a few weeks whether this system is free-to-play friendly or not. Next we have combat in Mongil Star Dive, and it's pretty standard but with a couple unique aspects. First, I wanted to talk about how combat feels. I'd say that combat feels functional, albeit a bit floaty at times. Characters have the standard basics, skill, and ultimate, along with a passive. You can also dodge counter some enemy attacks. However, there are a couple more unique aspects to Mongil Star Dive's combat system. For example, the switch skill system felt quite unique to me, as there are no conditions needed to trigger the switch skill. Basically, when you just swap a character onto the field, they'll perform their switch skill. In most games, you need to fulfill some sort of condition, like using specific abilities or filling up a specific switch bar. But in Mongil, you just activate this anytime that you want by switching. Instead, there's a cooldown to how frequently you can switch in to trigger the character's switch skill. Overall, this combat did feel fresh compared to its peers. The other unique aspect of Mongil Star Dive's combat is its monsterling system, where you can equip a linked monsterling, which will perform an additional attack based on certain criteria. At the moment, the monsterlings that I tried didn't do anything too crazy, but there's a lot of potential with this for them to do some really unique things with the system, and I hope to see some epic monsterling abilities in the future. As for some other details, each character is one of 4 classes: Fighter, Assassin, Destroyer, and Support, with each class specializing on a certain style of combat, like Assassins dealing more damage to stun targets, Destroyers stunning the target faster, etc., etc. There are also some elements in the game, and as of my initial understanding of the elements, these serve more so as an enemy elemental weakness system than anything else. Some elements do seem to have some unique aspects, like Earth being able to petrify or something, but overall from what I can tell, it mainly appears to be deal more damage to this specific enemy with this specific element, and the game will likely eventually recommend you / push you to build multiple elements to help deal with various elemental weaknesses that enemies might have. Speaking of which, some enemy abilities can be countered by attacking it a lot with a specific element or breaking various parts of its body. The game has some of these raid-like combat mechanics integrated into it, and I'm down for this type of complexity, as many of the boss-type enemies didn't just feel like punching bags. Overall, the combat, while not the flashiest around, felt functional enough and has enough depth in it for those that enjoy min-maxing such content. Okay, so we've covered the most important parts of the game, like the combat, dancing mushrooms, and Yonner's poop. Let's talk about what no one cares about, the characters you can collect. Obviously, I'm being facetious, but yeah, you can judge for yourself based on what you see on screen. Mongil Star Dive still somehow just has a T for teen rating on the Google Play Store, but I gotta admit, this isn't a game I'd personally play on public transit. Developers definitely spent a lot of time on the physics in the game, and there are actually, surprisingly, a few male characters. From what I can see here, 4 out of the 19 characters available on this early access version are male. Esther, the maid, is the featured banner character, and there is a bit of depth to her playstyle, where you're heavily rewarded for doing proper dash cancels with her to squeeze out more DPS. The characters also have decent menu animations, although it does feel like they gave up for some of the menu animation transitions, and zooming in on a character's face shows a high level of detail in some of their features like their pupils. Overall, the character designs were not what I was expecting when I initially picked up this game, but I've come to appreciate them after playing the game for some time. Now let's also briefly go over the gacha. Obviously, this is a pre-release version, so nothing is finalized, but a fantastic bit of news is that the featured banner on this pre-release version has no 50-50 system. This means that you'll always get the featured character that you are pulling for. The featured weapon banner is also very similar, although it pretty much just requires 10 less pulls basically. The standard banner features 6 standard characters and also uses a different pull type currency, with a chance to get them being split evenly between them. Overall, it's a tried and true gacha system, with the added benefit of not having a 50-50 on the featured banner. The standard weapon banner lets you select a 5-star weapon where you're just guaranteed to get it. Ultimately though, the banner system is only as good as the number of pulls you will get, which we'll only know how many that is upon the game's release. Also, for what it's worth, on my first and only playthrough where I took my time and read the story and did the tutorials, it took me about 20 minutes to reach the summons. You can probably cut that time down significantly when you reroll, but again, we'll have to see if rerolling is practical on launch. I personally hope so, and if it is, I plan to reroll until I get G1, and we're also all getting a Francis for free thanks to the pre-registration rewards, because I really appreciate how well written they are as characters and how intriguing and deep their personalities are. Let's quickly go through some of the gameplay loops and progression in Mongiling and Dive Starring. Characters can utilize up to 6 dupes to max out their seeds, so 7 copies total. I haven't seen what happens when you max someone out though, but I'm going to assume that 7 copies is what you need to max them out. For weapons, you can get 5 copies to max these out. So far though, character copies and such have not felt impactful or necessary, but this is of course the early game. Every day you can hunt 5 boss or elite monsters to also farm their materials, allowing you to level up their link abilities or craft gear. The gear system looks like an artifact system and likely has a lot of RNG to get the ideal substats on them. You also have the standard stamina system, or keys as they're called in this game. You get the usual stuff from stamina like character EXP, ascension, talent, materials, weapon and gear EXP money, etc, etc. Fortunately, you can sweep stages that you've cleared before, so this way you can spend more time on, as mentioned earlier, going through the maps in order to farm more monsterlings and gather ores and stuff for crafting gear. So there you go, my first impressions and review on Mongil Star Dive. If you liked what you saw, there's a link down below where by clicking on it, you'll support my channel. And if the game isn't for you, hey, I totally get it, and I really appreciate your time either way. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Want to Lose, signing out.